Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Man at YouTube with another Q&A session. A week ago I put out a call for your questions which I will give in video form my answers. Now I haven't gotten a lot of questions this month. Not a problem. Some months are heavy, some months are not. At the end I'll give some personal shout outs for some worthwhile YouTube channels to subscribe to. But for now we'll get into it and we'll keep this video quite shortish. Apoc Strike asks, "Hi Man, this is a question for the Q&A and probably has been asked before. Questions being asked before is not a problem anymore. Lol, just wanted to know what is your favourite master grade and high grade ever and why. Thank you in advance." For second part, on a side note, love your content. I have learnt a lot from your videos. Thank you very much, mate. Now, in the way of master grades, I've only ever really built 3 master grades. A very long time, my first Gundam kit, I had half a original Zeta, just only the outer armour, so I scratch built some sort of steel body and put the armour plates on the outside. Very rough, not worth showing whatsoever. It's somewhere in storage. And a few years ago for the Gunpla Builders World Cup, I built the Master Grade Shaz Custom Dom, which was pretty good. I liked it. Very limited in articulation. Took a long time to build due to the inner frame. If I was to paint it while making the inner frame removable and all that, would have been a bit of a pain. Its separation at the articulation points compared to a high grade was pretty troublesome. So that and the Perfect Gundam, which was glued in one place because it didn't have the articulation to sit on the diorama in the way that I wanted it to be. So that was super glued all in one place and coloured in one bit with camouflage and weathering and all that jazz. So in conclusion, I don't like master grades. I probably have 2-3 master grades. 2 of them I'll probably end up selling. One of them is a clear Zaku, and I've got the intention of building the inner frame, painting it all lovely, then putting the armor plates on that is see-through, but not interested in master grades anymore. High grades, I love high grades. I'm a big high grade builder, as you can see from my channel. Mostly about high grade building when it comes to Gundam models, besides the no grade stuff. And probably a lot of people who've been watching my content for a long time remembers, I love the HGUC Zaku 2F2. Comes in 2 variants, Xeon and Federation. With the decals, I like the Federation one a lot more from 0083. It signifies an Australian coloured Zaku from the Torrington base. I think that backstory is very cool, how Zaku's been captured, traded hands, used as a trainer while there's more superior weapons at hand, where Guerrilla Xeon forces are still using them. So you're seeing what the Xeons are sort of using as their lowest grunts as the Federation's testing their top stuff. That was an excellent build. Very few seam lines that were very hard to see, but still not hard to fill. A very quick build, customizable options, plenty of weapons, plenty of accessories. In my opinion, it is the perfect high grade. It's perfect for beginners. They'll get a great model for their first painting challenge. Everything's color separatable. You can put it on pegs and airbrush it. I've again, I built it twice, one out of the box, one for the last Gunpla Builders World Cup. I've got another one in the stash. I will build that, but absolute favourite, a must build. Second that I've built, I built but not painted yet, is the Hymock. It is very simplistic. It has a few seam lines. It tries to cover most of them, but if you glue it really tightly, they're probably not noticeable. The colour separation is great. Very small part count, but with that small part count there's a lot of points of regular and detailed articulation. It looks great, and it's just an empty canvas open for all sorts of paint work or modifications, whatever. They've released an aftermarket weapon set for it through the Build Fighters line of weapons and accessories. I think that's a great kit. I want to try to finish it before I go to Japan and review it. Amazing kit. I think it is worth getting. Third I'll recommend is the Grimoire from Reconquista no G. It came together really nicely. Billions of modification efforts. I don't even think there's a reason to even build it out of the box. I'm not 100% happy anymore with my rendition of it, but it's alright. Again, very similar to the Hymok. A few parts, a lot of points of articulation, interesting detailing, interesting proportions. You could pretty much modify in very freaky 1/12, 1/35 scale, non-Gundam mech diorama, your own imagination thing. That is a lot of fun. Definitely highly recommend that. And then two that I've snapped together and then modified, which is sort of recommendable. I'm doing a top 5. The HGUC Q-Belly and the Gelgoog. I like those kits a lot. Actually, I'm fans of the mobile suits, and the kits are suitable. I will be building those out of the box one day, but they're just highly recommended. A bit old, but they come together nice enough. A few seam lines, not very troublesome. The Q-Belly has a lot of interesting functions and articulation and detailing gimmicks. A big kit, an expensive kit, but it's got nice gimmicks. The Gelgoog, nice proportions. A very interesting kit. Love how it separates. That goes into that. Next question. Hi, compressor question here. I've recently purchased my first airbrush compressor kit. A cheap, small, basic beginner compressor with only on-off switch. I can't control the air pressure coming out of the compressor, and it seems the pressure is high, blowing stuff off my desk. When I'm using it, I'm guessing it's blowing at about late 20, early 30 psi. I also have to push down on the airflow or else the compressor starts shaking. I also can't seem to get a smooth finish even when I use clear paints. The surface seems gritty. Maybe the paint is drying in the air. I would highly appreciate... Read more. Any tips how I could improve my results with this compressor? Thank you. Normally my recommendation is you buy the best compressor you can possibly afford with your money. It sounds like it's a direct line compressor. There's no air tank, so it would look something like this, except this is premium branded one. It doesn't have a regulator or a dial, and it's pretty much straight out of the compressor, maybe a water trap into the airline. What I recommend is a tank is out of the question, but we could still go straight out of the compressor. Go to a hardware or automotive store and buy yourself a regulator with a dial on it. It will cost you between $10 to $20. You can find them in automotive shops, in hardware stores, and specialist tool shops. Anyone that sells air compressors will sell a regulator. Bring your air compressor in. It will have an output of either 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, and make sure that it fits. And yeah, that will give you air control, so you're able to airbrush anywhere between 11 to 15 psi. At the moment you're probably spraying it double. Because it is spraying so hard, you're probably pulling your model away from your airbrush. That is contributing to the gritty texture or orange peel. But we need to solve one problem at a time before we solve the next. To solve that, all you have to do is buy a $10, $20 component, and that will save you buying a new expensive air compressor, and that should get you out of somewhat some trouble. So remember, a regulator with a dial on it, and it'll either be for a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. Bring your small air compressor into the shop for them to have a look at it. Heffling1 asks, what is your preferred method for panel lining? Does it change for painted versus unpainted kits? I have actually done an unpainted kit recently. For painted and unpainted, it doesn't really change. For an unpainted kit, it's going on bare plastic, so I don't really care. I slap it on, and if I have to use thinner to clean it up, it will not damage the plastic. For painted kits, you have to be a little careful, because if you put too much thinner and it dries, and it's the wrong type of thinner on the wrong type of paint with the wrong type of cleaning agent, you can damage your paint. Generally speaking, since I mostly spray in lacquers, I'm not too worried. I pin wash using, I don't have it with me, the Tamiya Accent Color range. All you have to do is put a drop of ink onto the panel, fills the panel line out, clean it up a bit with a tissue, and it looks great. For kits that I want a different type of wash to collect detail and grime in other areas, for weathering purposes, I will use a sludge wash, which I will apply a wash throughout the kit and then wipe it back with a tissue, leaving where the ink has recessed in multiple areas. So it's not only just focusing on particular panels and only highlighting certain panels, it's highlighting the whole piece of the kit by covering the whole kit in the wash. Again, I use the Tamiya Accent Color. I take the small brush out, I use the wider brush and just color the whole thing in and wipe it back. Again, this is with being painted with lacquers. If you want acrylic, the Citadel does a nice acrylic wash. MIG has brought out a nice acrylic wash. There's a few acrylic washes on the market now in hobby shops. I may or may not review them. They've got lovely military colours, so if you're doing acrylics, they'll be more suitable. I'm not using the Citadel ones anymore. I find that they're putting a matting agent in it, and if you apply too much in sludge washing and other matte products, it has a tendency of going frosty. So I have completely eliminated that from my range, because obviously it's being focused more on washes on figures than armour and mechas. But yeah, they're my options, and they're definitely worth having a play around, and there's no difference between painted and unpainted. You just have to be a tad more careful. And to me, panel line accent colour is just, it's amazing. Check out my review, good fun. Screen's fallen asleep. Next question, we're almost there. Hi, where do you get your pla plates? Do you get them online? Can't find them anywhere. Thanks a lot, man. And there was an answer to it. Someone else answered it. It said they are usually just called plastic sheet styrene, thin, medium, thick, get all three. Any model store can help you out. The company that makes them here in North America is called Evergreen. They make all kinds of plastic sheets, tubes, I-beams and other stuff, which is a good answer. My answer is they're known as styrene sheets. I do not use pla plates. Pla plates are styrene sheets branded under Tamiya. If you're in Japan, they're only a couple of $100 and not a problem. Once you start importing them all over the Western world, they're starting to get to $10 a sheet, and in my opinion, an absolute rip-off. There has been debates if they're more superior to Evergreen and other sheets. I call rubbish on that. If they've got a texture, you can always sand it back with 1000 grit sandpaper, so that's not a problem at all. Nowadays, I go to an art shop, and where they supply vac formers plastic. They come in 1 mil and 1/2 mil, and I buy them in giant, 1 by 1/2 meter sheets for about $10–15. They're massive and they take a long time to get through. Evergreen sells them in a slightly similar size to Tamiya, though they tend to be very expensive. But they've got a lot of interesting shapes. Some of them are extra thick, some of them are extra thin in the way of sheets, clear sheets. But their rods, I-beams, planks, all that sort of stuff are really worth it. There's another US company called Plastruck. They sell styrene and other plastic tubes, I-beams and all that a lot cheaper than Evergreen, though if it's a non-styrene version you'll have to use super glue over cement. But if you're into saving the money for the same results, that is definitely an option for you. That's about it. If you go online, eBay, there's a wargaming online store that sells styrene sheets really cheap, and as this guy mentioned, in thin, medium, thick. They don't even tell you how many mil thick they are, and they're literally like $1 to $2 a sheet. If you buy a heap of them up and combine the postage, they're normally very cheap. So if you're in a place where there's no hobby shops, eBay is probably your best bet for small quantities of styrene sheets. Though if you hunt around plastic factories, art shops, just look for a vac form community, or even better, if there's a cosplay group in your city called 501st Legion, a bunch of guys that dress up as Star Wars stormtroopers. They do a lot of vac forming to make their armor. If you find out where they are, find out where they buy their plastic, or even better, if you're really nice, ask for their offcuts. But yeah, just check out the vac forming community. Buy their sheets, and if you can find their offcuts, which I have found before, they'll give you a half a kilo bag of tiny pieces from a few centimeters to a dozen inches for next to nothing, or even better, for free. Now here's some outside of YouTube comments. Facebook question: why was I polishing primer? I was showing a work and build progress of my Hymock, and I polished the plastic with Mr. Hobby Compound, and I polished and sanded the primer, and I'm about to put paint and then polish and sand that. The reason why is when I was doing my tutorial on clear matte, or the Tamiya clear flat, I found that because the spoon had a super smooth texture, when I sprayed it with the primer and looked at it when it was really sharp and glossy, the primer was a bit textury and pretty much frosted that shine. So it went from a very sharp shine to a frosted shine. And I am of the belief that paint is translucent. Whatever the finish of the bare plastic, the primer, is what the paint is going to reflect. If you want to finish a matte finish, you might want to sand up and rough up the texture. If you want a gloss finish, you want to buff it, sand it, and smooth it as smooth as humanly possible with the highest grit of sandpaper that you have. And when I finish with the model, you'll probably see the answer. It's going to be a lot more shinier and slicker, because the primer, which has a texture, will be completely smooth. The reason why the primer has a texture, it's microfiller. If there's any fine scratches or dents or whatever, it fills that. I sand it back, and the plastic will be perfectly smooth with no faults that the gloss coat will pick up. Again, keep watching this space, and you'll see the results of why I'm polishing every layer of paint, bare plastic, and primer. Also tutorials and further videos regarding polishing and gloss coats coming soon. Going to do some clean builds and share those concepts, as well as all the weather modelling that I've been doing. Issues with... yes. I've been communicating with a gentleman on Facebook for about a week. He's been having problems stripping paint off a kit. I recommended the bleach method. He used the bleach he had at home, soaked the kit for 24 hours, took a lot of the paint off, but there's large remnants or large patches of marbled paint throughout his work. Following my advice, he has bought another brand, soaked it for a little longer, and where I believe there might have been some improvement, all the paint has not been stripped. Unfortunately, the bleach technique is not 100% foolproof. You can soak it anywhere up to a week, checking it regularly, and most likely there will be very flat patches of paint. If you run your finger over it, you'll find that it's not really raised, and once you put your next layer of primer over it, it's not going to be too bothersome. If it does really bother you, anywhere from 320 to 1000 grit sandpaper, wet it and just sand those bits back. Rescribe any panels in detail with a panel scriber, chisel or knife, and with a bit of work you generally can reprime and start painting your model again. Just sometimes when paint, especially lacquers, cures for a very long time on a plastic surface. It's just really stuck there, and the bleach just can't quite lift it. If it can't lift, then when you put your primer over it in future, that area is not going to lift because the bleach couldn't even lift it. I really hope with helping this gentleman out over the week that he comes to a conclusion and a finish of his model that he's happy with. But unfortunately, the paint stripping and the bleaching is a last resort strategy when you have made a mistake and not 100% foolproof. There are other techniques such as using thinners and braid fluid. I do not recommend those. I have not tested those personally, and I cannot verify or confirm their results. Other modelers may be able to help you with that. And a YouTube question, which was a tongue-in-cheek one, but still very relevant to my content. Why am I not producing high-definition content? And this guy was actually very nice about it. He reckons that everyone should chip in a few dollars for me to get a flash camera or a Kickstarter or something like that. The thing is, as you can see with how well my studio's stocked, that I can buy all sorts of new toys, airbrushes, 3D printers. I am on a decent income of money. I do work 2 comfortable jobs. I can afford a high definition camera. The problem with high definition camera is you have to assume that the cameraman also has the appropriate computer software and computer rig to run it. Even though I am a technician professionally, I am quite technophobic at home, and I am running a fairly old laptop. It's probably getting close to 10 years old now. That was designed for XP to Windows 7, and I'm still operating Windows 7 on it, and I haven't quite upgraded. It is slowly disintegrating, though it just does not have the processing powers, the storage capacity, nor the external hard drives to save high definition, render it, upload it. It's going to be very, very time consuming. Unfortunately, being a full-time employee, I don't have time to edit videos that big. Actually, most of my videos is just slideshows with an audio file of me talking. After all these years, I have finally invested in a microphone that I like. I've been using cheap microphones for a long time because I could not find a nice microphone I like. I found a lovely USB one. It's a dynamic mic, and it just captures my voice beautifully. It doesn't have background sounds. I'm too happy with it. In future, I may go to the low end of the high definition spectrum. Once my computer rig is upgraded, my camera is also aging. It does fault out from time to time, and it did have one big fit where it lost data. That will be upgraded one day. If it's in good nick, I might even hand it down to another YouTuber, but for now, the quality of the channel is going to stay at this. I do put up high quality photos of my models on the channel and my YouTube channel, so you can have a very good close look and scrutinize my models. In the way of seeing how I do things in tutorials and me talking, you probably don't want high definition of me like this. You'll probably see the pores in my skin or the follicles in my beard or something like that, but I am content with this output. The idea is the sharing and educating, making tutorials and putting information out there how I build my models. As long as that information is being shared and is being getting out there, I'm happy. The biggest downfall is being on YouTube for so long, I've gotten a feel for its algorithm. Some channels and videos get a priority with high definition, so high definition videos always rank higher than normal definition videos, thus pushing my content down lower. Luckily, a lot of my content is extremely niche and get a high view count, so they normally bypass those. But if I started getting to really popular things like just nippers, just glues, tutorials that people made hundreds of, especially the airbrushing ones, they really get buried, and it would be nice to get into high def just so that it can, climb the view ratings a little higher, or the rankings a little higher, but in the end, making videos is not about the views, the money, or anything about that. It's the sharing of ideas and having a good time. But it is advantages, disadvantages that I've definitely balanced out, thought about, and at the meantime content and running things how they are right now. I'm always thinking about these things and new ideas for the channel, and we'll definitely communicate it via a vlog when things that are major are changing. That concludes all the questions. I'm going to do 5 YouTube shoutouts. I'm going to put the links down below. I highly recommend subscribing to these guys. Their content is absolutely top-notch and relevant to the stuff that I'm doing on my channel. First, Leona's Workshop. Leona is a very well-known garage kit modeler and makes a lot of the very cute anime girly figures. As you know, I've gotten into that. I've made one resin figure. I'm working on one at the moment and would like to have a output of 1 or 2 a year and get into that community of modeling. Leona is a specialist, has her own techniques, and I'm going to be learning from her by watching her tutorials to improve my base knowledge of painting and modeling these figures and get them of a little higher quality. My first video was just my general idea and basic research and attack on it. It was not exactly correct. I've made mistakes, and we're going to see how it improves in my next video. But Leona is an absolute expert. The tutorials are lengthy and fantastic. They're really in-depth. They're very well made. The video quality is professional. It's sort of a level I wish the Mokono Man was on, but who knows what the future may hold, but we can all learn and study from each other. There are definitely amazing modelers out there that are up and beyond the content here. Talking about that, if you wish to learn from a real master in the Gundam modeling community, MVM3897 YouTube channel focuses mostly on resin. This is Matt Mosaic's personal YouTube channel. He is an extremely well famous Gunpla modeler, mostly in resin. His kits are really iconic and really recognizable. He goes into great depths and detail of how he built his kits, and if you wish to learn what the absolute top tier of Gundam modelers conduct themselves, how they build, paint and finish their models, this is a really good insight in that side of the hobby, and you can see where you can learn, improve and pick up some excellent tips. Plugging this guy quite a bit, but we're good mates. The Ghost of Zeon. The Ghost of Zeon is really getting into tool reviews and a lot of tutorials and demonstration, as well as 3D printing as well, buying 3D printed dinosaurs, sanding them up and painting them. It's done a resin kit. A lot of new interesting content as long as finished work. Very worthwhile checking out. The content is a little bit staggered, but quite regular. Very worthwhile subscribing to. Very worthwhile checking out. One of the Australian Gunpla Builders World Cup champions in past. Harry Houdini, another Australian modeler. This gentleman is exclusively military. Everything planes, tanks and ships, an absolute triple threat, very rare. His models are of very high quality. He has very in-depth multi-part videos of building the kit while talking from runners to finished painted. Very in-depth, quite a bit of humour, old dude, really great. His channel is quite small. He only has about 300 subscribers, but I think his content is really worth it. He's definitely worth checking out, subscribing to and doing. Those Gundam guys, they do a podcast, Google Hangout style show with a few tutorials and content. I haven't watched all of them, and I think I might even be on one of them. I can't quite remember, but their show is really, really good, really in-depth. They get multiple modelers throughout the Gunpla community who are very well known together, and they talk about releases and their favourite kit and their methods of doing stuff. They show all of their work in progresses and talk it through. If you want to just have something playing in the background or watch while you're modelling yourself, very worthwhile. They've got their entire backlog of videos up. There is literally many hours of content to watch if you've watched absolutely everything modelling related online. So definitely check that out. And they've got some anime resin modelling tips on there too, which I've just figured out just there and then. So that's 5 channels. Thank you very much for watching. This is the last Q&A session of the year. We'll pick up again in January. On the 29th of November, I leave the country for Japan. I'll be gone for 3 weeks. I've been making extra content, a few reviews, a few tutorials, using the Google scheduling service. They will be uploaded, unfortunately, for the majority of the month of December. I'm going to be busy having a good time. I'm not going to be answering questions or being interactive on Facebook or YouTube. I will try to get on it about once or twice a week, so if you are asking questions, leaving comments, please be a little bit patient during that time, as well as leading up. Work and other things is quite hectic, but I will try to deal with your needs as often as I humanly can. I'm just about to prepare and go to the Bayonet Military Model Show tomorrow. I'm actually dressed to go to a LARP right now. And thank you very much for watching. Peace out. Catch you guys later and have an excellent one. Keep watching, keep subscribing, and new content will be coming your way shortly. Catch you guys later.